Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Things are changing, right? I've got a much higher definition camera now. Tell me what you think in the comments. So over the last sort of 6 months, one of the biggest questions that I've had from all of my followers on TikTok, on Facebook, and on YouTube, they've all asked me how I actually got started in property and why I do what I do on social media. So first of all, let's reverse engineer this and let's talk about the last thing first. Why do I do what I do on social media? Well, I've got two reasons why I post so much content. The first one is that when I started investing in property and I was looking at social media and I was looking at all of the channels and all of the people putting content out there, and guess what? They were all showing the riches. They were all showing the good stuff. They were all driving around in really high-end sports cars, walking on beaches in Dubai, and saying to everybody, look, if you invest in property, this is what it will get you. So I started and I thought, okay, that sounds pretty good to me. I'm really interested in that. But then I realized that that's not the true reality. It's a part of it, and it can be if you work really hard. But the true reality of investing in property is getting up in the middle of the night when you haven't got a team and sorting out leaks, sorting out tenant problems, sorting out tenants that don't pay, chasing rent, going to properties where tenants have trashed rooms. So I started to search on social media for all of these people showing the real live content. There was nothing. I couldn't find anything at all. So I thought I'd start to plug that gap. So I started to create real content. Not staged content, not stuff that was done in a studio, real live content that people could actually see, number one, the good things about property, and number two, the reality of how you can get to those good things. Now, like anything in business, nothing's always going to be easy. You're going to get your peaks and you're going to get your troughs, and property is no different. So I started recording and vlogging my journey. And I started recording things that went wrong as well as the good things. And that's when my property channels started to go viral. When people started to watch things that have literally gone wrong, tenants that have run off, how I dealt with that, how I chase tenants lawfully for arrears. And then I started to get noticed by the papers and all sorts of different things. And then my channel started to blow up. So that's my mission. Now, as I said, it's a two-pronged effect. Now, the other element of me posting so much property-related content on social media is because I want to carry the flag for the good landlords. And I think it's fair to say that landlords get a bad rap. They get a bad rap across the board. Rogue landlord, slum landlord, etc. You're going to get rogues in every industry, right? You're going to get bad police officers. You're going to get bad accountants. You're going to get bad lawyers. You're going to get bad solicitors. You're going to get bad everything. And landlords are no different. But there is a lot of really good landlords out there that treat their tenants with, number one, really good morals, and number two, the respect that they deserve, because tenants are our customers. Yes, they can be hard work sometimes, but so can any customer. And if you had a business, for example, a shop where you are inviting people in and you've got a customer that comes in to make a complaint, well, you're going to try and help that customer out, right? You want to keep them as a customer, and tenants are no different. So part and parcel of what I do is to fly the flag for good landlords, for good responsive landlords that stick to the law and help their tenants. And that is why I'm here doing what I do. So I hope that answers that part of the question. If you've got any comments, please do put them in the chat below. So the second part of the question was, how did I personally get started in property? Now, this is a really long story, so I'm going to squeeze it into a couple of minutes for you, just to try and help and inspire you to maybe do the same. I started actually investing in property about 27 years ago when I became an accidental landlord. My wife and I bought a house in Nottingham, and I was working for a finance company, and we bought the house off plan. That means that we bought it before it was built. It was a brand new development. And any brand new development back then and now you would pay a premium for it because it's a brand new house. You're the first person to live there. So we bought this house and we lived there for a year, and I got promoted again about a year later, and we had to sell to move back to where we were being posted to. So we put the property on the market, and because we paid so much money for it at the beginning, sadly, it hadn't gone up in value, it had gone down in value. And if we were to sell it at that point, it would have cost us about £10,000 to pay the bank back. We didn't have that money. We were too, it was like, oh, well, what are we going to do? We'll probably have to rent. But back then, about 27 years ago, it was quite easy to obtain a mortgage and a second mortgage because we were both working full time. We both had good incomes. So we walked into the bank and we literally got a second mortgage. The minute we walked out, it was like, whoa, we've got a second mortgage. We can now go and look for a decision in principle. We can now go and look for another property. So we rented our first house out. We didn't have any other choice. We didn't want to become landlords. It wasn't something that was on our bucket list, but we did because we had to. And then for about a year, we were landlords by default. But then about a year later, we sold that property and we did make quite a considerable amount of money just from waiting and from locking in because the prices shot right up. And then what happened after that? Well, I joined the police. And my property investing journey started to do a few hobby projects. We did some flips. We bought a couple of houses as buy-to-lets, but it wasn't something that we were really passionate about. It was just a little bit of a hobby and an investment for the future. But the pinnacle moment for me, and if you've read my book, House Arrest, came that I was a police officer and I was working nights. And I came home after a really busy night shift and I went to see my daughter and see if she was okay. She said, yeah, I'm great, Dad. I'm just getting ready for school. Then I went to see my son, Ben. And I said, hi, Ben, are you okay? And he said, not really, Dad. I've been awake most of the night worrying about why I can't play football like my friends. Now, Ben was born with brain damage and he's got a condition called quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which means that he can't use his legs at all. He's completely paralyzed in his legs. He can't use them. So he's in a wheelchair, which means he can't do the things that most of his peers and friends can do. So I gave Ben a cuddle and I said, don't worry, Ben, we'll make it okay. We'll get this sorted for you. And that to me was like a spade hitting me across the face. I knew that I didn't have the ability to give Ben his legs, but I had to do something and I had to help him. So I went off to bed and slept for a little while, got back up and went to see my wife, Lorraine, and said, look, we need to make a change here. We've got to do something different. I'm in the police. I'm working nights. I'm working weekends. I'm working Christmas time. I'm away from the family. We've got an obligation to bring our kids up in the best way that we can. So we said, well, why don't we go back into property? Now, property's always been that second burner for us. It's always been that side hustle. Why don't we do it full time? So I gave my notice in the police actually as a career break. I took a career break and concentrated on houses in multiple occupation, HMOs. And by working really hard and harder than I've ever worked before, within the first 12 months, I managed to double my police income. So I was able to resign completely from my police job. And that income gave me the money and the time to be able to found the very first disabled power wheelchair football club for kids, which meant that Ben got to play football. So we had this huge journey, and all through property, it helped Ben, it helped 5 other kids as well, but it gave me the ability and the drive to start growing my business. So from that point, how did I start within that 12 months to double my income? Well, I started with a strategy called rent to rent, and that's where you don't own the property. So you don't need a huge amount of income. You can just go in and take the property over, subject to planning, subject to mortgage conditions and licensing, and then start trading that property. And I'll do a few more videos about that to help you move forwards. And then I got my first joint venture partner, which was my father-in-law. He'd just retired from his job, had a big lump sum in a pension and wanted to invest it with us. So with that money, we bought our first HMO, we developed it, we added value, We refinanced it, got the money out, which meant then that we could then give it back to my father-in-law. But he decided to leave it in the business because he was getting a good return. And then not long after that, I got my first lease option. So the lease option was a very small property in the city centre that we managed to turn into a HMO. And within 12 months, we actually made enough money from cash flowing that property to be able to put down as a deposit. So we bought it. And then the next property came along with another joint venture partner that came from my network. So we met someone because of my network. I found a really great deal. I invited them into the deal if they wanted to fund it. They said yes. We developed the project. We refinanced the project, which means taking a new mortgage out at the end of the development. And all of the money that we managed to make came back out of that deal, back to the investor. And they said, well, you know what? I'm happy with that because I've now got 50% of that project. Let's do it again. So the way that we work with our joint venture partners is that they put the money in, I find the deal, and then we add value by planning permission, by refurbishment. Then we'll refinance and get a new mortgage based on the new value. That means all of the money or most of the money that the investors put in, they get back, but they get to keep 50% of the property or the shares equivalent to 50% that owns the property. So it's a win-win. Why don't they do it themselves? Well, very often they don't have the time, maybe they don't have the experience, but they've got the money and they've got the want and drive to be able to maximize the interest that they can get on that money. So it works really, really well. So that's how I started. Started with my first deal, which was a rent-to-rent. Then we went on to a purchase with a joint venture partner. Then we got a purchase lease option. Then we started working with joint venture partners. And hey-ho, all these many years, nearly a decade later, I'm sat here now with an 8 million or £8.5 million property portfolio. And that's how it started. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you've got anything that you'd like me to create a video about that will help you move forwards in your journey, please put it in the comments below. I'm quite interactive as much as I can be on my platforms, and I'd love to help as many people as I possibly can moving forwards. So thanks for watching.